And the United Nations, for example, has been beta testing that exact system for years on the most vulnerable people in the world, on refugees, through things like the Building Blocks program of the World Food Program, where refugees have to scan their eyeball and make a digital ID and have a digital wallet, and they can go in and get their, rations, but only if they scan their eyeball. They have to pay with their face, otherwise they don't eat.
Scan your eyeball or starve. That's not a dystopian movie. That's happening right now, and it's coming for everyone. Cash is simple. You earn it, you spend it, you control it. No one can tell you where to use it, when to use it, or what to buy with it. But programmable money changes everything. And according to investigative journalist Whitney Webb, most people have no idea what's being built around them. Today, we're breaking down what programmable money really is, why it's fundamentally different from anything we've used before, and why, once it's here, there's no going back. Let's start with the basics. What does programmable actually mean when we're talking about money? Programmable money refers to digital currency with built-in rules that automatically control its behavior based on predefined conditions. Think of it this way. With cash, once it's in your hands, it's yours. You decide what to do with it. But programmable money has code built into it, rules, restrictions, and conditions. This is what it means in practice. There are time limits. Your stimulus check expires in 30 days. Spend it or it vanishes. The government decides your money has an expiration date. And there are the location restrictions. Your money only works within a certain geographic radius. Want to travel? Need permission first. And lastly, behavioral controls. Algorithm flag your spending. Too much meat, gasoline, airline tickets? Denied. Someone else decides what you're allowed to buy. Most people have heard about central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. And most people are rightly terrified of them. Government-issued digital money that can track and control every transaction? No thanks. But Webb warns we're being set up for a bait and switch.
So Trump has been very openly against central bank digital currencies, but the problem with stable coins, particularly the big ones, is that they're just as programmable and surveillable as CBDCs could be. So most people are against CBDCs because of the programmability aspect and and the surveillability aspect, being able to trace and surveil every dollar you spend.
Politicians campaign against CBDCs.
I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
They sound the alarm. They promise to protect you from government overreach. But then they champion stablecoins as the freedom alternative.
Eric Schmidt and Peter Thiel sit on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Conference, which is kind of notorious for being a closed-door meeting of prominent, globalists in the corporate world and in the public sector, And Reid Hoffman and David Sachs and Elon Musk are all part of the so-called PayPal mafia. They just happen to fund different parties, and all of these oligarchs, at the end of the day, do they frame the reasoning for why they want these policies differently. They agree about more biometric surveillance, they agree about digital ID, and they ultimately agree about programmable surveillable currency, whether it's a CBDC or a private bank digital currency that's also surveillable and programmable. So, if you're against those things as policies, it's important to pay attention to the policies and not so much the campaign rhetoric, because people tend to forget.
It's a shell game. The government gets the surveillance, Wall Street gets the profits, and you get a digital prison with a corporate logo slapped on it. But programmable money doesn't work alone. It needs an enforcement mechanism. And that's where digital identity comes in.
And Tether itself has made an alliance with the FBI and the Secret Service and, other aspects of the U.S. government to freeze wallets at the behest of the U.S. government, thereby making Tether sort of a soft extension of U.S. foreign and fiscal policy abroad as it relates to sanctions and other things.
Buy the wrong thing, your social credit score drops. Post the wrong opinion, your access gets restricted. Protest government policy, your money stops working.
I think we've talked about before sort of the effort to force people to adopt some sort of biometric digital ID in order to access the internet at all by going through the internet service provider. Again, there's only a handful of those. That industry is also pretty centralized. And so, if your ability to, access Bitcoin or run a node or anything is dependent on, power, and you're not off grid or whatever, or it's dependent on an ISP and things like that. Yeah, that's definitely something people should consider. And I think
WorldCoin, Palantir, Clearview AI. These aren't separate companies doing separate things. They're building the infrastructure for total surveillance, and they're doing it with government approval. So let's get specific. What exactly can they control with this system? Your government relief payment expires in 60 days. Use it or lose it. They decide how long your money is valid. Your funds only work within 15 miles of your registered address. Cross that invisible fence without permission? Transactions denied. No red meat, no gasoline, no domestic flights. The algorithm decides what's responsible spending, and you have no appeal.
Important to keep in mind that people like Larry Fink have very overtly said that markets don't like democracies. They like totalitarian governments. So this is a guy that is not about promoting your financial freedom or anyone's financial freedom. This is someone that likes top-down, centralized control to reduce risk in markets in which he trades and is active.
This is the guy, Larry Fink of BlackRock, who openly says markets prefer totalitarian governments.
Uncertainty. Markets don't like uncertainty. Markets like actually totalitarian governments where you have a understanding of what's out there, and obviously the whole dimension is changing now with, as you said, a democratization of countries. And
he's one of the main architects of this system. Social credit isn't coming. It's already here. China does it explicitly. The West does it through ESG scores, credit ratings, and now programmable money.
Thiel-funded company Clearview AI scraped all of the pictures for its facial recognition database off of Facebook, which again, Facebook was also a resurrection of a DARPA program related to total information awareness called LifeLog, by the way. And so basically, Peter Thiel was privatizing all of these very controversial surveillance programs for the intelligence community. And then again, Clearview AI took all of our faces off of Facebook that we freely shared.
Oh my God.
And used it to create a facial recognition database that law enforcement has. And in their sales pitch, they brag about identifying people that were at the Capitol on January 6, 2021, Trump supporters, and passing it all to law enforcement.
Your face, your data, your transactions, all fed into systems designed to predict and control your behavior. The part that should terrify you is that this system is in place. There's no going back. With cash, if the government oversteps, you still have options. You can still transact, you can still survive, you have alternatives. With programmable money, if you're cut off, you're done. No appeals, no alternatives. Your money simply stops working.
When you have a crisis and people are really stressed out
and scared,
especially if it has to do with their money or losing their money or losing their purchasing power, I think you'll see people sign on to things that they normally would not sign on to.
COVID was the dress rehearsal. Vaccine passports showed them exactly how far people would comply, how much freedom they'd trade for convenience. And most people complied.
If you think about, what happened with COVID, like vaccine passports, sort of as a trial run for digital ID. How did you avoid working with vaccine passports? Well, you had to opt out. It was kind of inconvenient. You weren't allowed to go places or do things that other people with them could do. And the same is going to be true with digital ID. So we had that test run with COVID. If you want to oppose digital ID and not participate in that system and opt out, which if you care about really human freedom, you should, then you should think about what you will do to opt out and not interact with those systems. And if you don't want to use programmable, surveillable money, whether it's from the private sector.
The next crisis, economic collapse, cyber attack, pandemic 2.0, will be the excuse. And the solution will already be built and waiting.
So I think, to make that switch, they can just be like, well, maybe your dollar in this, maybe these banks failed and you think your money may be gone, but we'll give you the same amount of money that you had in your bank, but in the form of these stable coins or something, and you can redeem them here. I mean, pretty much most Americans, I think, would do that to not, lose all their money instantly, right? And so I think it's likely that we're going to see some sort of situation like that. I mean, remember back to the regional banking crisis with Silicon Valley Bank. It seems very likely that a lot more of that is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think you could actually look at that crisis, which arguably was manufactured and made to happen. And that 2008 was kind of similar in that way. And those are major bank consolidation plays. And I think there's going to be an effort to consolidate the industry, the banking industry, even further in the US with the next crisis. And then those banks are going to be like, well, here you go, tokenized deposits, redeem them this way, or stable coins, or, JP Morgan's JPM coin or something like that, transact with that. Wells Fargo's working on one. A lot of these, the biggest banks in the US have done that, and then they'll be able to keep the two-tier banking system in the US the way it is now.
Banks fail? Here's your money back, but only as programmable tokens. Cash becomes unsafe. Digital is cleaner. Privacy becomes suspicious. Transparency is security. One crisis, one switch, and it's permanent. Whitney Webb's message is clear. Programmable money isn't an upgrade. It's a cage. The system they're building combines surveillance, programmability, and biometric control into one seamless infrastructure. And once you're in it, there's no escape.
And as long as we get this right guy or this guy can do it.
Yeah.
But again, we need to take personal responsibility and get our stuff in order, clean up the mess in our area, because the government isn't going to do it. Because historically, what does the government do, whether it's Republican or Democrat in office? They take your stuff.
This isn't about left versus right. This isn't about one party versus another. This is about control. Total, irreversible control over your money, your movement, your life.
All these things, digital ID, programmable, surveillable money, it's not going to happen if people don't use them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so they have to frame it as voluntary. They have to create all these situations where we feel pressured to acquiesce, and we do acquiesce. And we need to be proactive about thinking how to not acquiesce, because if we don't acquiesce and enough people opt out, it fails.
The system only works if we accept it, if we comply, if we trade freedom for the illusion of safety. The question is, will you comply, or will you opt out before it's too late?